Today we're going to be taking a look at Norwegian prisons. Norwegian prisons. Are they scary? Are they safe? Let's find out. My husband found a video on YouTube called How Norway's Prisons Are Different from America's. It is by Now This. I'm just going to take that away. It might be a little bit distracting. All right, let's just jump right into it.
Staying in a maximum security prison is not a normal life, but that's also an ambition, to reduce the feeling of being in a prison as much as possible.
And in here, you have my cell.
That seems like a double entendre for me. I feel like in the US it is very much, if you're going to prison, you want it to feel like a prison because prison is punishment, right? But someone in Norway saying that prison, they don't want it to feel like a prison is a very interesting concept.
So I have DVD and movies from there.
The basic question that we ask ourselves in Norway, what kind of neighbor do we really want? Because they could move into my neighborhood and they could move into your neighborhood. So I think this is an important question to ask ourselves, really.
That's a super important question to ask yourselves because that's so true. These people, they're eventually going to go back into society, right? So you want them to be considered as people's neighbors, as your neighbor, because they quite literally could be.
That should have an influence on how we work inside prisons.
The US has the world's largest incarcerated population with 655 out of every 100,000 people behind bars. Literally does not shock me. But Norway incarcerates just 60 out of every 100,000 people.
It's not for the prison to judge or to punish. We have to interact and be human. I think it's as simple as that.
In response to riots, high recidivism rates, and the murder of 2 correctional officers in the late 1960s and early 1990s. Norway began to re-examine and restructure its approach to corrections. I know that building. That's Parliament, right? That's Parliament. Or, is it Parliament? Is that a thing? I don't know. It's like the governmental building. It's not the castle, but it's like where everyone else in the government sits.
The most important thing is how we treat people. This is the 4 key elements that I would like you to remember. The principle of normality, the focus that we have in Norway on humanity inside prisons, what we call dynamic security, and the emphasis that we put on reintegration into society.
The main goal of the trip is for inspiration to go bold back in the United States.
Let's talk a little bit more about Halden then. How do we work and what are the unique things about us?
It is often referred to as the world's most humane prison. That's nice.
And in here, you have my cell. So I have DVD and movies from there. Here we have a real toilet with a shower and everything. You know, you can see everybody have their key, so they can open or close the doors whenever they want.
It's like an apartment. It's quite literally like an apartment. Like, these people have it better than a lot of people in the US.
Even though it's nice here, it's still not a summer camp. But I would like you to, look beyond the facilities. It's not the most important thing.
So this is the cell. Every cell is similar. And here we have the kitchen, where I used to prepare the food. You can see here, it's inside here.
That's a really important principle in Norway, which talks about that taking someone's liberty away and taking them away from their family, away from their community, that in of itself is the punishment. So life inside prisons should look as normal to life in the community as possible.
And
That's interesting. That's interesting. And I mean, makes a lot of sense, really, that just the fact that you're taking people out of society and out of their normal daily life, that is the punishment. That is what sucks about being in prison. That's so interesting and so different than the prison system in the US.
here, you have this washing room. You can wash the clothes and dry it.
Staying in a maximum security prison is not a normal life.
I mean, it is almost like it gives like a killing them with kindness vibe. It's like, we're going to give you so much responsibility and all of the tools that you need in life because this is going to make you be a better person and have those skills that you need to re-enter the world. It mind-blowing.
And I noticed you're just wearing normal clothes.
Yeah. That's allowed. You can wear whatever you want.
But that's also an ambition.
The US is they're so stuck on that idea that in prison you need to be reduced to a number. You need to be one of the masses, one of the same. And that's why all of them are in the orange jumpsuits or, whatever color the jumpsuits might be. But you're not important when you get to prison in the US. You're a number now. You're part of the system. That's all you are.
To reduce the feeling of being in a prison as much as possible. That's the normality principle.
How you can normalize the correctional setting for individuals to transition out. Bigger challenge in our system, but definitely something to think about. The commissary, the stores, where an individual actually gets to go to a real store and pick out commissary items. I think that's a good adds to the normalization.
It's that kill them with kindness kind of thing. We're going to make sure you're over-prepared to re-enter society so you have no option except to just be a person in society who behaves.
We think this is the most important part. Dynamic security sounds like a very fancy thing, but it's really just having a normal interpersonal relations between the officers, or all staff really, and the inmates. Every inmate has a primary contact officer, and every officer had to have 2 or 3 inmates that he is the contact officer for. That was the ambition, from guard to also be a social worker.
I was wondering if he was going to say anything about social worker and like therapist. I wonder if working in prisons and being a prison guard or an officer or something comes with that kind of training as well. That would be super interesting to find out, because you would have to do some of that, right? If you're going to be a contact officer for these inmates, I'm sure a lot of them have some very heavy things on their shoulders. You're going to have to be able to help with that appropriately.
The main subjects at the academy: ethics, psychology, communication technique, criminology, law, human rights. Of course, they do learn self-defense. They do learn extraction techniques. They do learn to work as a team. But that's not the major components. It's about how do you treat people.
That's so cool. That is so cool. I mean, it's like you overeducate, right? You make people so prepared to do this job. I mean, it just has no option but to be successful. And I mean, obviously it is, because Norway has like one of the lowest reincarceration percentages, right? Like barely anybody reoffends. So it must be working.
Respectfully.
My family always think that I just play games, because that's why I like very much to play games. So I often play cards and stuff with inmates.
I know in some states it's forbidden and will have consequences for you if you interact with inmates as a staff member. Quite the opposite here. We expect and demand an interaction between staff and inmates.
It's kind of friendship with someone, and to see the progress and see the changes, that's the best with the job.
Can you imagine a correctionals officer in the US saying, it's like a friendship. My relationship with my prisoners is a friendship. It's like a friendship. No. That would never happen. That is wild.
The contact officer is, for example, sitting down with you and making you a future plan. So what for steps by steps to become a free man?
From day one?
Yeah.
So the officers need to know everything about the system and give advice to the inmates about the future, what steps should they take.
Big love of my life. I've been here for 1.5 years, but I was transferred from a prison in Brazil. You can compare that to come from hell to heaven. So it's a big difference.
Oh my gosh, I bet that is a huge difference. That has to be like he said, like heaven and hell. That would be wild.
The guards, first of all. In Brazil, the guards are more you feel bad and weakness, the more they feel good. Here you have the guards, they was very kind to me when I came. They are still very kind. We can speak, they treat me as a human being. In Brazil, you get treated like an animal.
I've been working here since the opening in 2010. And I've been working in other prisons before that also. It's not for the prison to judge or to punish, because the police catch the guy, goes to the court, and it gets sentenced perhaps, and then it comes to prison with that. We have to interact.
Wow. Just that mindset in itself is completely different from anything you would see in the US. Saying that it's not the prison's job to judge. It's the judge's job to judge, right? It's the court's job to judge. But when that inmate gets to the prison, it's the prison's job to reform, to help them with the tools to create a better life. Such an interesting thought. And as an American, I almost have to reprogram my brain to think about it that way. Yeah, I almost have to flip this switch in my head that says, oh yeah, it's not the prison's job to judge the inmates that come in. The prison is there for reform, for learning. That's why you do it, right? So interesting. It's just like a complete 360 way of thinking.
And be human. I think it's as simple as that. It really is, because we can create walls between us, but that doesn't help anything. We have to communicate, we have to interact.
Without approaching people with respect and dignity, it's impossible to sit down the next day and talk about his future, because he will not have any trust in you. So in order to,
Wow.
work well with reintegration and future planning, etc., there has to be, a foundation there of trust between the staff and the inmates.
I've
visited a lot of prisons in the United States as well, and somehow I don't have the same kind of feeling of, relief of getting out of an impressive environment that I've experienced coming out of those prisons. I think that says something about how different the environment is here.
I think I have big opportunities here to prepare myself for the life after prison. I thought there is still hope, there is still opportunities, to get a good life after getting out. So, yeah.
Wow, that's eye-opening, truly. Just that mindset of we're going to treat you guys so much like a person that you have no choice other than to be a person is beautiful, really. Can you imagine just how much kinder people would be to inmates, to people who have been through the system and experienced that? Just having that mindset instilled in your prison systems and in your communities that this is about reform. This isn't about punishment. And you will go back into the world with the tools you need to have a good life. It would be life-changing for everyone. The inmates, communities that these people are going back into, I don't know. It is so interesting to think about and what that would look like in the US. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this is a positive way of looking at the prison system? What does the US do wrong? What does the US do right? Let me know what you guys think. Let's talk in the comments. Bye.